As we all know, April is an absolutely beautiful month. Between the trees blooming, the grass growing, and the gorgeous weather, there really is a lot to be grateful for. One day, my mom and I were prepping our postage stamp, which is our perfect place at home. And on one hand, you had my mom. She was listening to her music, getting stuff ready, and absolutely soaking up the gorgeous weather that we were having. On the other hand, you had me. Absolutely miserable. So stop. Let's backtrack a little bit. Going into this year, I really felt like I had my 2020 vision. At this point, I had my year figured out. I was going to finish high school, have a phenomenal summer with friends, and then this fall, go to Oregon State University and start my college education. And for a few months, this was the plan. Everything in my life was going well. My FFA chapter always had things for me to do, and although it was difficult, it was rewarding. Even though my work was always having me stay late and keep me up after hours, it was a lot to deal with. But it was a great feeling knowing that I was making a difference. And although my friends and I were really busy, we still found time to hang out with each other. And for the first time in a while, I really felt secure in my environment. And for a couple months, this worked. And then March hit. And suddenly my outlook on life changed a lot. On March 10th, schools were closed from March 13th to the 31st, which we ended up finding out that would continue through the whole year. On March 11th, the gathering sizes were limited to 250 people, which means that our in-person FFA State Convention was canceled. And this I was totally bummed about, because even though we still held things virtually and made it all work, it felt really weird that I couldn't compete in a contest or see my FFA friends in person. And after a few weeks, this continued to happen. The gathering size is limited to 50, 25, and eventually 10 people. But I continued to try to make things work and try to find ways to make an impact on my environment until March 23rd hit, and that is when our stay-at-home order was put in place. And that's when I realized that I could effectively do nothing to help. At least that's what I thought. And for a few weeks, to numb out these upset feelings that I had, I went through the same numbing cycle. TikTok, YouTube, junk food. If I was feeling upset about what was going on, we'd go through the same cycle again. TikTok, junk food, YouTube. And for a few weeks, I thought this was working and that this was the best way to numb out my feelings that I was having, until realizing that I was completely unhappy. So one day, my mom and I were prepping our postage stamp, our perfect place around the house. And on one hand, you had my mom, who was soaking up the gorgeous weather, listening to her music, and trying to have a conversation with me. And on the other hand, you had me, absolutely miserable, because I was going through the same cycle of TikTok, YouTube, and junk food. And when we were finishing up, my mom looked up at the sky, and she said, "Wow, it is an absolutely gorgeous day outside. Isn't there a lot we should be grateful for?" And at that moment, my perspective had changed. My mom's simple saying of, "Isn't there a lot to be grateful for?" really struck home with me, because there was. Even though I couldn't be outside or hanging out with my friends or in town because of coronavirus and lockdowns, there were a lot of things that were going well at my home. I had spent more time with my sister in the last few weeks than I had in the months prior. And she was nervous for the fact that I was going to be heading off to college. And even though my dad and I were super busy at the beginning of this year with work, school, and everything going on, us being home got more projects done in the last few weeks than we had done in the last few years. So there was a lot to be grateful for, because I was still making a difference where I was at. And there's still a lot to be positive for, even with everything going on. There's a lot of things that we can be positive for in our environments, and those could be really small things. It could be going home and seeing that our dog is there and ready to pet. That could be going to Dutch Bros and getting our favorite Rebel. Or perhaps that's FaceTiming a friend because they still care about us. There's a lot of things that we can be grateful for in our environment, and we can continuously stay positive, even when things look negative. Continue to make an impact on your environment and continue to stay positive with everything that is going on.